Engari rā, anō nei ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, koe tēnei, heuri au no Ngāti Kahungunu, no te whanau apanui, o te rā no Rangitāne, ko Ngāti Kere, ko te whanau te hutu, ko Ngāti Parekiore, oku hapu, ko Rewi toku pāpā, ko Diane toku māma, ko Piata hau. And yeah, as said, I'm really proud to be born and bred in Palmerston North. Yeah, it's a cool place. It's a real cool place. Quiet place, but a cool as place. And it's events like these that make it so amazing. So just want to thank all of our organisers for putting these nights together. It's really, really cool. But yeah, I guess a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. I left it really, really vague in the email reply to Cami because I hadn't actually decided at the time, which was, 3 days ago. So we'll see how this goes. But I really wanted to talk about Matarkiki in relation to, I guess, this father-son connection. So I want to talk a bit about my father. I want to talk about his father maybe a little bit, and then I'll talk about my son. So starting off, I'm the son of a handsome Māori man and a beautiful Pākehā woman. And yep, I was born at Palmy Hospital. No, I was born at home. I was born at Russell Street. Those of you who know where that street is, it's somewhere in town. And yeah, so I lived there until I was about 4 years old. And around that time, actually, my koro passed away. His name was also Apiata, so he's my father's father. And it was obviously a really sad time. I suppose I was too young to really comprehend what was going on, but I could tell by the look on my father's face and my mother's face that you know, obviously we'd lost someone really important, and that's where I first learned that he wasn't coming back. I guess this is where I first learned the idea of death, I guess, and the finality. And I do remember when I heard koro passed, and I was like, oh, well, sweet, when's he going to come back? Or, you know, stuff like that. And my parents let me know. I had nightmares, you know, I was crying for days, all those kinds of things. It was just kind of interesting to be introduced to that concept in such a way. But yeah, so my koro passed on, and then we moved out of our house in Russell Street, and we went to live out in Bunnythorpe, actually, just, you know, on the way to Fielding. And I guess a little bit about my dad I'll talk now, which is that he is a very proud rugby player. He plays for Kia Toa Rugby Club, and he really likes sport. Well, he doesn't like sports, but he likes the challenge. So he has done a bunch of Iron Māori. He's done the Taupo Cycle Challenge 12 times, I think. And yeah, he's just an awesome dude. He loves challenges. He is really, what's the word? He's a social butterfly as well. He's a real man's man. He's also the type of guy that does like kind of random stuff just because, I don't know, it's cool. It's cool, and it gives him something to carry on. Like, for example, this limited edition jacket here. It's over 20 years old, and it used to belong to him. But the reason it's limited edition is because there's only one in the world that exists of this type. He literally went and bought a jacket and got it embroidered so that no one else would have the same jacket. So you can't buy this jacket anywhere. And yeah, it's woolen, pretty flash. Particularly for the I don't know, the 70s or whatever when this came out. Oh, that makes this way older, eh? Anyway, so yeah, he's also the kind of guy that you know, loves the pub, goes and watches a bit of rugby over there. But he was also working at a telephone company as well, and he always had the flashiest telephone, like a iPhone X or an iPad or something like that. Particularly, he liked to take his iPhones and all his devices with him when he went to the pub. So how do you hold an iPad all night, you know? This guy literally got a big jacket, like those suit jackets, and got an iPad pocket stitched in so that he could hold his iPad wherever he went. Yeah, he was that kind of. He was also the kind of guy that went onto the Bluetooth ear thing before it was cool, yeah, he was always after those gadgets. He is the man, and he is also someone that I know loves his kids. Something that I wouldn't understand until way in the future. But there's the type of person that he was. But he was probably a victim of I don't know. We don't call it the stolen generation, but the generation that lost their Māori culture through various things, but mainly the idea that practicing your culture and your language was frowned upon and almost not allowed, and beaten out of a lot of kids. They weren't allowed to do that for a while, and so his parents, my koro and Nan, decided that it was actually better for them not to invest too much into that part of their life. The world as we know it now is moving in the direction of Western ideas, and at the time it seemed like a really a sane idea to invest more into Western culture, and so that's what he was. However, when we were born, we were sent the other way. We were sent to Kurakaupapa Māori. We were sent to Kohanga Reo, which is Māori schools and preschools, and it's here where I learnt about Matarkiki. So when I was in Kohanga, I learnt Matarkiki, e whetu ngā whetu, the seven sisters, and we learnt all of their names. And when I went to Kurakaupapa Māori or Manawatu, which is in Calvin Grove, we learnt this cool song. It was to the tune of Stevie Wonder, and it was like, Ka kitea Matariki, ka ora anō te whenua, whakataukihea e oku tipuna, kua wheturangitia. So this is how we remembered these, and so that was when we see Matariki, we know that the land will live, will carry on to live as is told by our ancestors who have gone beyond the veil. At high school, went to Freiburg High School, and we learned a little bit more about Matariki. We learned, as Jamie mentioned, all of the signs and what they represent and what each star's for. Your tupuanuku, tupuarangi, waiti, waita, waipunarangi, and ururangi as well, which is representative of the winds. And these were all, depending on how bright the star might shine in the night sky when you check for Matariki at this time, would usually herald whether or not there was a lot of or not very much of. And so, sometimes you might think of tupuanuku and waipunarangi. We're both shining at the same time. So as mentioned, tupuanuku represents kind of our vegetables and things that grow off the land. And waipunarangi is rain. So I guess if they're both shining at the same time, it makes, scientific sense that there's going to be lots of rain, so there's going to be a good harvest, for example. So things like that. It's also where I really got into kapa haka, and I learnt this really cool haka, and it went, e te koko mako te koko mako, ko te hautapu e rite ki te kai nā matariki, tapa reirei a koe a tapa, tapa konunu a koe ana tuku a hi au we hi. Ia haha, katu te hihi, katu te wana, hirunga I te rangi, e tui honei. So yeah, we did heaps of cool things like that kind of represented Matariki in different ways. That being said, despite my parents thinking that my culture was super important to me, it was important to me, but it was super important for everyone, I didn't pick that up at the time. I didn't have a purpose for why I learnt this. And it's hard to see, I guess, your connection to the land, particularly if you live in the city and things like that. As a child, I'm like, man, I'm learning these, all these cool things, but I don't know why I'm learning them. I'm not connecting to my culture. I'm learning it, but I'm not connecting it. And it's like, I kind of disconnected a bit from my own culture despite it being right in front of me for me to get. So I guess I took it for granted a little bit. Moving on to, that's also where I met my now fiance. We've been together for like 9 years, and I know that because she reminded me on Wednesday. It's our anniversary, babe. It's like, I know. Happy anniversary. Here, I got you this chocolate bar that's been in my pocket, waiting for you for this moment to tell you, but you spoiled it. But anyway, yeah. So that's where I met Passion, and yeah, she's a beautiful woman. She's just everything I've needed in my life, I guess. Moving on a couple of years, I went to university. Actually, I sat a paper with Te Rā, who's in the audience, and a shout out to the bro, and we sat a Māori paper, which taught us even more about Matarkiki, which is the inclusion of those 2 extra stars. Remember I said whetū whetū, the 7 sisters? Well, a bit more recently, they say, well, actually, our tupuna thought there were 9, or at least some of them did. And so they acknowledged another 2 stars, which were the sacred stars. Everything else is about the environment. These 2 were about our hopes and aspirations. So, as mentioned, Hiwa i te rangi, which talk about our hopes and aspirations, and then the other one was Pōhutukawa, which talked about all of the people that have passed on. Well, the people that have passed on at all, I guess, all of them, but also more particularly the people that might have passed on in the last year. Went through university, finished that up, got a cool job, I guess, and then had a beautiful son. My fiance got pregnant, and 9 months later she had a baby, and I remember the labour like it was yesterday, because we laboured kind of through the early hours of she laboured, but I was there. Through the early hours of the night, and during that, remember I said my dad loved to go to the pub. He just got home from the pub, and dude was, lit. He was, really had a lot to drink, and so he gets home and he's like, guys, let's have a party, because I'm gonna have a grandson. And so he was right on it, and Passion at the time thought it was really annoying, just trying to zone in, hone in, get, I don't know, it's a woman thing. You guys, most mothers would understand is what I mean. I don't know what I'm talking about when I say that. That's what I mean. But she was getting really annoyed by him kind of causing a fuss. But we got through the night, and at about 5:45 in the morning on August the 7th, 2016, she'll be proud of me for remembering that, we had our first son was born. And I remember my dad looked, he was laughing. It was weird. He was laughing, and then he's just laugh crying. He was just laughing and crying at the same time to hold his grandson. And I held my grandson, and my son held my son, and I looked at him and I thought, wow. There's a phrase we have in Māoridom called hinatore, which is kind of a faint glowing light, usually emitted by stars. And hinatore means the light turned on, or I clicked, those kinds of things. I clicked that everything that I'd been learning, my whakapapa, my tikanga, my Māori culture, matariki, my practices, this is why I do it. This is this person, this thing that is half me, I guess, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I would easily, jump off a cliff if it meant the survival of this baby. I would do anything for it, and part of that is I would preserve my culture that's handed to me to hand to this boy. And it also kind of told me, if I feel like this for my son, this must be what my father felt to me. It's kind of, that cliche about you'll never know the love of a parent, of your own parents, until you are a parent. That hit me then, and I realized, man, this is amazing. So it really pushed me to carry on learning my culture, my whakapapa, learning how to speak on the paipai, do whai kōrero, and at the time, little segue into a mate of mine, at the time it was really helpful because I was working with a person called Te Hamua Nikora, who's actually spoken at a Pūrere Hua event, And he's taught me so much about Te Ao Māori because he was born into it and he kind of lived it for all his life. He taught me so much, like just a lot of things. But he taught me heaps, and there was also doing my own research as well, which is more recent. But mentioned was Professor Rangimā Tāmua. Got his book and read into it about Matarkiki and learned that when you look up into the skies, everyone knows does everyone know what Orion's belt is? Like the pot, some would say. So we call that tautoru. And if you know how the pot kind of has its handle, I think about it as the pot because it looks like a pot. But it has its handle. It kind of goes up. But if you carry on, like if we're looking up at the sky now, if you were to carry on to the left, you would see kind of the upside down horns of Taurus, which is, according to some, called Matarkiki. And then if you carry on a little bit further, you end up in where Matarkiki is. There's a few other important stars like Takurua, Puanga, and another one, which I've forgotten. But all of that together is supposed to make Te Waka o Rangi, which is the boat, the ship of Rangi. So at the K, the back of the waka is this tautoru. At the front is Matariki. Matariki is the nose, the ihu of the waka. And I'm probably, oh my gosh, I'm going way over. But essentially in the middle is Taramainuku, and he is the captain, and he has a net, and he comes and claims all of the souls who have passed away, and takes them with him to join the waka and to join the stars every year. So kind of I'll fast forward a little bit. Essentially, I bought the house that I was born in from my parents, and as we were doing the house up, I remember it really vividly because I had my boss's husband and my fiance's brother working on it, and my mother came through crying distraughtly, and I didn't know what happened. I was thinking about something else. I thought she'd crashed or something like that, but she came in to tell me that my dad died, and he had died cycling the Taupo cycle challenge. It was his 13th run, and I know this because he was trying to get to 15, and then so it was a cardiac thing. He was 58 years old, and so since then it kind of brought things a bit more full circle because I don't know. It was just kind of like this rock that we'd all have, this foundation that our whole family had gone, and meanwhile now there's a tangi, there's a funeral to do, and you know, someone has to sort all of that stuff out, and Dad wasn't there because he would have been the one, ironically, to sort that out. So we got through that, and since then I've been trying to find ways to remember and respect Dad, and part of that is I joined his rugby club. I took his place on the president's team. I am going to do the cycle challenge this year, so I'll be praying to Hiwa i Te Rangi for that. And the last thing is I learnt about this thing called a hautapu, which is when you do a hangi. It's kind of like a tribute hangi, and the steam is supposed to rise up into the skies to give strength to the lonely stars that have been flying and, you know, doing all those cosmic things for you. So yesterday morning, actually, we did a hautapu, and a hautapu is not only to give strength to the stars, but to remember the ones that have passed on and to call out their names and tell them to carry on. And we did that, and it was a real special, it's just a real special occasion. But you know, the things that I'd learnt in that haka that I did a little bit earlier, which was ko te hautapu e rite ki te kai nā Matarkiki. So, you know, prepare the hautapu for Matarkiki to consume, to draw strength from. Tapa reirea koia tapa. Sever the ties. Sever the ties with those you've lost. Tapa konunua koiana tsukua. Sever the ties and send them away, send them up. Hi o wehi. So that's a haka. That was the last haka that we performed yesterday morning. Even though you can't really see Matarkiki o Puanga from the city really, because there's all these buildings and trees and skyscrapers and stuff, and we did it in a backyard. But I think symbolically, it's really cool to kind of use a cultural practice to find closure in the loss of someone that you love. So yeah, that was my, oh my gosh, that was my 20-minute story. My goodness, I'm so sorry. But hey, thank you for having me so much. And I love my father, I love my son, and I love that I can kind of connect all of these and find some closure through looking up into the stars and drawing on Matarkiki. Ngā mihi nui, ka kite.